Good evening, friends. Let me welcome you all to this webinar on DDPI. Firstly, I would like to welcome Mr. Prashant Wagal and Mr. Yogesh Parve to this webinar, and they will educate us on the provisions of DDPI. I would also like to request Mr. Kamlesh Shah, our national president, to give a few introductory remarks before we start the webinar. And just to begin with, I would like to congratulate Mr. Prashant Wagal and his team for the very successful implementation of the pledge and repledge process. It was such a complicated process, but the way it has been implemented is simply superb. Everybody is really loving it. The investors are having full confidence, and the brokers are happy. And may I request Mr. Kamlesha to give a few opening remarks?
Yeah, thank you, Rajiv ji. On behalf of NME, I extend my warm welcome to Mr. Prashant Bagal, Executive Vice President, NSDL, and Mr. Yogesh Parve, Assistant Vice President, NSDL. Speakers of today's webinar and members who have joined us today for knowledge series in association with NSDL.
Just a second, sir.
Yeah.
Preparing to live stream this meeting. Yes, we are live again.
Right. Should I start it again? On behalf of NME, I extend warm welcome to Mr. Prashant Wagal, Executive Vice President, NSDL, Mr. Yogesh Parve, Assistant Vice President, NSDL, speakers of today's webinar, and members who have joined us today for the knowledge series in association with NSDL on Demat, Debit, and pledge instructions. The past few years have been good for the broking industry as a whole. Our regulator SEBI has come up with many reforms like upfront margin, pledge repledge in the depository system. This step will be taken as an extension of pledge repledge system. SEBI has adopted a framework of segregation and monitoring of collateral at client level and directing brokers to put systems and processes in place to mitigate risk of misappropriation or misuse of clients' security and funds available with trading member. Further, SEBI on April 4, 2022, in order to make the process of pledge repledge more transparent, came up with a circular on execution of Demat, Debit, and pledge instruction for transfer of securities towards deliveries, settlement obligation, and pledging, repledging of securities, which will be effective from July 1, year 2022. Under this, the client shall explicitly agree to authorize the stock broker and depository participant to assess their BO account for limited purpose of meeting paying obligations for settlement of trades executed by them. Also, client may use DDIP or opt for complete settlement by issuing physical delivery instruction slip or electronic delivery instruction slip themselves. During last few years, the investors' confidence has gone up. We have seen that in rise in the depository accounts, the Demat account has gone up from 4 crore to 10 crore and it is likely to go up. The new age investors have joined the market, which has made market very vibrant, and we have been able to absorb the selling by the FII. So this is a step forward to build confidence among the investors and to see that we have increased participation by all retail investors. We consider these reforms as the best for the capital market and making market a safe place for investors and boosting their confidence in the capital market, which is evidently shown in number of increase in the Demat account. Let us understand the topic in detail from our esteemed panel members. With this word, I would like to hand over the proceeding to our director and moderator for today's event, Mr. Rajiv Gupta. Thank you for participating in this meeting.
Thank you, Kamlesh bhai. And I extend a warm welcome to all my members. And now may I request Mr. Prashant Wagal to say a few words and his team to give the presentation and walk us through the intricacies of the new circular and how it is going to be implemented. Mr. Prashant.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Mr. Kamlesh Shah, President, and me. Mr. Rajiv Gupta, Director, National Council, and me. Dr. Raghvendra Prasad ji, and other dignitaries from ANMI. First of all, we express our sincere thanks for giving us an opportunity so that we can interact with the ANMI members on the one of the great topic which we are waiting for last 3 years. And it's a great pleasure for us to be here. In fact, I remember the day 3 years back, we went to SEBI with a concept like a Demat mandate. And the argument what we were having to the SEBI that why there is a need to sign the agreement when the NASH mandate or EMI mandate or SIP mandate without any agreement can be signed. And so we are very happy to see the concept of a Demat mandate coming in the form of DDPI, and with a advanced version, it has come into the existence. We all know that 2 years back, the POA was to some extent was replaced by uh, EDIs. Though it is a good concept, but there are many things in the EDIs. One is every time you have to take a OTP MPIN mandate from the customer. EDS mandate can be used only for next 14 days. Once it is used, it cannot be used again. So there are n number of issues was there. And as a part of that, it was observed that though there is a usability, one is a technical integration, the another thing is uh, every time it has to be up in the critical time if there are some issues. So these are some of the points which are hampering the use of the EDIS for the broker. Now the DDPI has taken care of all these issues. One, it has simplified the online account opening process. Secondly, it is more legal protection to the investors in terms of in terms of uh, activities like it is digitally signed by the investors as a part of the account opening journey, and due to which there is no need for these investors or the broker to get the details again and again from the investor. So considering there are n number of benefits the DDPI is offering, and in the long run in the court of law it will be the digitally signed statement, not like a OTP or TPIN which investor can disown in future. So that's the reason we feel in terms of visibility, in terms of legally, it is a better option than what EDIS is offering. Definitely there are some issues which we have observed. So I am saying that over as a part of this presentation, we will give more thoughts on that. We are in discussion with the SEBI. It is a beginning. And the way every process get evolved over the period of time. And thanks to Rajiv ji for giving the compliment of successfully implementing margin, pledge and replace system. Over the period, this system also will get stable. More and more options will be implemented, enhancement will be done. And so we are very much optimistic that this development will be in the interest of market, and in the vision when we are looking for 5 trillion economy, and that is possible when more and more demat account will be need to be open. And in fact, we have begun the year with a LIC IPO, and because of that, the large number of the investors has opened a demat account. And so the opening batting has been done in a good way. So the next 1 year, we are very much optimistic. The concept like a DDPI will give a further boost for opening of the demat account. So with this word, I will hand over the session to Mr. Rajiv ji once again. Thank you. Rajiv ji, you are on the mute.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prashantji, for giving the opening remarks. And may I now request Mr. Yogesh Parve to run through his presentation, and then we can straight away go to the question and answer session.
योगेश आप म्यूट पे हो. योगेश, you are on mute.
So good afternoon once again. I would like to take this opportunity to thank NME officials and dignitaries to giving us this opportunity to give the presentation on a DDPI circular issued by SEBI recently. And we are very thankful to Mr. Rajiv Gupta for their kind words regarding the implementation of a margin pledge and replace system. After that, we have also done many things like block mechanism and uh, other regulatory things as well. Mr. Kamlesh also spoke about the change in the capital market, the number of Demat accounts, and the growth of number of Demat accounts which we are looking into. So definitely after this SEBI circular, there are lot of queries about the how the operating guidelines is related to the DDPI, how the system implementation will be done. So I'll just take out through the few important factors of the DDPI circular issued by SEBI. Mr. Raghvendra Prasad, can I request you to enable myself for sharing the screen? So till that time, I will give you the background of the SEBI circular. SEBI has issued a circular on April 4th, year 2022, wherein SEBI has issued a certain guidelines in respect of execution of a Demat, Debit, and Pledge instruction, that is abbreviated as a DDPI, for transfer of securities towards deliveries, settlement obligations, and pledging and repledging of the securities.
Dr. Prasad, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Please share the screen. Screen sharing option, please activate.
I think already నేను మాట్లాడుతున్నాను నీకు. ఎట్లా స్టాప్ చేయాలి, ఎట్లా హోస్ట్ ఎట్లా చేయాలి?
The sharing rights are given, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope my screen is visible now.
Yes, Yogesh ji, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for confirmation. So I'll just try to take you through some of the important points mentioned in the SEBI circular and how to go about it. So as I already said, SEBI has issued one circular dated April 4 regarding the execution of a DDPI and how the DDPI can be used for certain type of transactions based on the guidelines issued by SEBI. So what is a DDPI? DDPI basically should be taken as a separate document and which has been prescribed by SEBI as a part of Annexure A of the circular dated April 4. And for this DDPI, the client shall be explicitly giving a consent to the broker or the depository participant so that to agree to authorize the broker and the DPs to execute the transaction on behalf of the beneficial owner account, which will be limited for the purpose of meeting the paying obligation for settlement of a trades executed by them. Then the next point is that the DDPI shall be serve the same purpose of a power of attorney and significantly mitigate the use of a power of attorney. Currently, most of the Demat accounts are operated by power of attorney, whereas SEBI has issued these guidelines, which will be, coming with the same purpose of a power of attorney, wherein DDPI will be made applicable, and the DDPI will work for the replacement of a power of attorney for the certain transaction, as mentioned by the SEBI circular. The circular will be applicable from July 1 to 2022, and the new for the new and existing client based on the client consent for DDPI. So as I said, there are so what are the transactions basically? So for transfer of securities held in the beneficial owner account of the client towards the stock exchange deliverable settlement obligation arising out of trades executed by such a client on a stock exchange through the same stockbroker. And that replacing for securities in favor of a trading member, clearing member for the purpose of meeting margin requirement of a client in a connection with the trade executed by such a client on a stock. So SEBI has clearly mentioned that this DDPI will be used for these two purposes. One is for the execution of transactions for the settlement obligation. And the second part is that, as you all are aware, we have already implemented the margin pledge replace system, wherein on the basis of power of attorney, this type of transactions are being executed by the stockbroker. SEBI has touched upon, they have amended certain points of the circulars, and with addition to the some of the clauses, SEBI has issued this circular dated April 4th. So SEBI has, mentioned the circular dated April 23rd, 2010, and August 31st, 2010, which is related to execution of a power of attorney in favor of a stockbroker. Then SEBI has issued a circular dated 27 August 2020, and which is again the power of attorney guidelines to 2020. Then SEBI has issued one circular related to rights and obligation for the document purpose, and issued on August 22, 2011. SEBI has made the mention of this particular circular also in this DDPI related circular. And SEBI has also issued two circulars separately. One is dated 25th February 2020 and 16 July 2021, and wherein the SEBI is intending to replace the word of a POA with the word as a DDPI. All the provision of the circular other than this shall remain same applicable. So these are the certain circulars wherein SEBI has, done some amendments to the circular, or SEBI has given the various references of the clauses of these circulars in the DDPI circular. So I just thought I will, combine this all circular list, which will be made available to the brokers and depository participants, readily available with them for the reference purpose. Then these are the certain, operating guidelines mentioned in the SEBI circular related to DDPI. So client will be having following options to submit instruction. So once we implement the DDPI related changes, so client can execute a transaction on the basis of DDPI submitted to the stockbroker or the DP stockbroker, or client will have the option to execute the physical DIs. This option will continue as such, and the electronic DIs, EDIs. So client will have options, all the three options open for the execution of a instruction, whether it is a DDPI or electronic EDIs. As per the SEBI circular, it has been mentioned that PO will be no longer be executed for the clauses mentioned under 1.2.1 and 1.2.2 after implementation of a DDPI SEBI circular. So whatever the date has been mentioned for July 2022, from that date onwards, the POA no longer be executed for the purpose of 1.2.1 and 1.2.2, the clauses which are being covered for execution of a transaction for paying purpose, paying obligation, and margin pledge related transaction. As I already said, DDPI is a substitute of a POA. So in a certain areas of the SEBI circular, SEBI has clearly said that the DDPI will be replacing a power of attorney as the case may be in respect of a certain transactions. The DDPI shall be a voluntary document, and that should be added in the rights and obligation, which is already mentioned in the SEBI circular. The DDPI shall be executed only if the client provides the explicit consent. As I already explained in the previous slide, this DDPI will be clearly on the basis of the explicit consent provided by the client. So if the client is able to provide you the requisite consent, then the broker or the DP can execute that particular rights of getting the DDPI from the client and executing given the list of transactions on the basis of DDPI. The DDPI shall be adequately stamped. So this is the one of the point mentioned in the SEBI circular. SEBI clearly specified that the DDPI shall also be adequately stamped. And there are various modes by which the client can submit the DDPI related document or DDPI to the depository participant or stockbroker. By the client, the DDPI can be given electronically signed. There are the three modes by which the client can submit the DDPI to their stockbrokers. As already mentioned in the SEBI circular, the existing PO shall continue till clients revoke the same. So there are many questions related to power of attorney, whether power of attorney will go out of the scope. The answer is no. For the existing clients, the POA will continue till the time specifically client revokes that power of attorney given to the stockbroker. POA and DDPR are optional for account opening. So SEBI has clearly mentioned that neither the POA nor the DDPI is a mandatory thing for account opening. Both will be work as an optional for account opening process. The DDPI provided by client shall be registered in the Demat account of the client by trading member or the clearing member. So it is same like a power of attorney, wherein the power of attorney is mapped to the every Demat account wherein the BO has given a power of attorney to the stockbroker. Similarly, DDPI is required to be registered in the BO account of the client by the trading member and the clearing member. Provision to capture target CMTM pool account details under the DDPI. So as you are aware, today also while whenever the client is giving the power of attorney to the stockbroker, so in the depository system there is a provision given so that they can tag this particular power of attorney is assigned to a stockbroker, and along with that there is a provision to capture the target account details of that particular TM and CM. So these details will be captured for DDPI purpose as well, wherein the target details of that particular trading member, clearing member will be captured in the depository system wherein the DDPI is executed. Option to be given by the client, to be given to the client to revoke, cancel the DDPI provided by them. There is a client modification facilities available wherein the client can assign the new power of attorney. Client can make a request to make a new power of attorney assigned. Client can do the modification of the power of attorney. So these all modifications are today being provided in the local DPM system of the NSDL. That same functionality needs to be given in the module for the making the changes in the DDPI, which is already provided by the client to the stockbroker. So similarly, that facility will be provided to the client to revoke, cancel the DDPI given by them. So these are the certain transactions or instruction based on the existing power of attorney or ADS, which will continue in the future. So these are the certain list of transactions which we have listed, like client to CM transaction. In client to CM, we have two parts. One is the account transfer, which is a within NSDL transfer, and one is the inter-depository transfer from one depository to another, and vice versa. then the block mechanism related transaction, and third one is a margin pledge and replace. So these are certain transactions which we have listed, which will continue to be executed on the basis of the existing power of attorney and EDS. So we have, thoroughly gone through the SEBI circular, and we have emphasized there will be very minimal changes in the system which are required, and we are trying to, minimize the file format changes also, which will give the very less impact to the back office vendors and the DPs and brokers, so that minimum changes are required to be done in their system, and they can adopt to the DDPI module as early as possible. So these are some of the impacted modules which will be require certain changes in respect of the operating procedure and in the file format as well. So changes in the DPM system. So when we speak about the client to CM transaction, so there are two modules which will get impacted. One is the account transfer module, and one is the inter-depository transfer module. As I said, today also this type of instructions are executed on the basis of power of attorney, wherein in a particular BO Demat account, the PO is mapped, and on the basis of that power of attorney, instruction is being executed to debit the client account and credit the clearing member pool account. So similar way, the DDPI will be recorded in the client account, and on the basis of that DDPI, the instructions will be executed through account transfer and IDP module. So changes in a SPICE module. So this is also a same type of a transaction from client to CM, but the only difference is that the SPICE is a e-services product which is resided on the Speedy platform, wherein the brokers upload the list of clients who has given the power of attorney to the broker, and DP approves that list. And once the approval is done, then the broker uploads the transaction on behalf of the client to debit the client account and credit the CM pool account. So this is the client to CM transactions operated through a digital platform called SPICE to debit the client account and credit the CM pool account on the basis of the power of attorney. On the similar fashion, on the basis of DDPI, the SPICE functionality will work to debit the client account and credit the CM pool account based on the DDPI provided to the stockbroker. So similar, functionality will be given in the SPICE to, onboard the client on the basis of DDPI mapping and execute the transaction using that DDPI given to the stockbroker. Changes in the margin pledge and replace instruction based on the DDPI. This is also similar kind of arrangement wherein we have given the digital platform for margin pledge system, wherein on the basis of power of attorney, stockbroker today uploading the transaction on behalf of the client to create a margin pledge instruction on behalf of a client in favor of a stockbroker. So similarly, DDPI will be recorded in the Demat account, and by making the very minimal changes in the file format, the DDPI identification will be done, and on the basis of that DDPI, the broker can initiate a margin pledge or repledge instruction, so that the pledge will be created wherein the pledger will be client and pledgee will be a stockbroker. So this is the transaction processing slide which we have added to give the more clarity how the client to CM related transactions will be handled, because it is not only related to the DDPI related transactions or how the transactions will be executed using the DDPI functionality, but the SEBI in their circular have mentioned 2 points. One is securities to be transferred from a client account to TM account on the basis of a client-wise net delivery obligation arising from the trade executed on the exchange as provided by the CC to the depositories on each settlement date. Today also, whenever we are executing the transactions through block mechanism, so those transactions are getting blocked in the client account till the paying date. And on the daily basis, clearing corporations are uploading the obligation details on the depository platform, NSDL platform, and we are doing the matching of the transactions on the basis of the client-wise net obligation received from the clearing corporation. So that similar part needs to be done in case of a DDPA operated transactions as well. SEBI has clearly mentioned this part in their circular. The blocking has to be done, and the obligation level matching has to be done before debiting any securities from the client account which are executed through DDPI module. So DDPI module is nothing more than the block mechanism. So all the process related to block mechanism, how the instructions will be executed, how the securities will be blocked in the client account, how the matching will be done with the obligation received from CC. So this part will be remain untouched, unchanged, so that the based on the transaction executed, DDPI based transaction, the block mechanism process will be followed, same which is currently being done, wherein the securities will be blocked in the client account till the paying date, and once the obligation is received from clearing corporation, the matching will be done. Once the matching is successfully done, then on a T+2 basis or the paying date, the securities will be transferred directly to the clearing corporation account, wherein the broker is not required to execute any separate IDO instruction or delivery out instruction. The securities will be directly debited from client account and credited into CC pool account. The early paying detail will be given by the depositories to the clearing corporation, so that there is no need of uploading those details by the broker on a clearing corporation platform again. So once matching is done, on a paying date, securities will be transferred to the CM pool account. Then a special delivery out order automatically will generated from NSDL system, which will transfer the securities to the CM delivery account and subsequently to the CC settlement account automatically. So this process, this point, whichever is mentioned, is related to NSDL internal arrangement, wherein the securities will be automatically moved from pool account to delivery and from to delivery account to CC settlement account. So we are hereby giving the edge to the broker, so that 2-3 processes, internal processes, are eliminated, so that they are not required to execute a special IDO instruction. They are not required to upload instruction on the CC platform to get the early payment benefit. Then every instruction executed by DDPI shall be considered as a EPI, and that shall be sent to the CC for API benefit, which I have already explained. Every instruction executed through DDPI will be considered for a EPI, and the separate export will be provided to the clearing corporation to give the EPI benefit. And as I already described, the further process of a block mechanism will remain same for the instruction uploaded through or operated through or executed through DDPI. So that's it from my side. I have tried to cover the some of the important points of this SEBI circular, and I have tried to touch upon the certain parameters which we are looking for, which will have impact on the system as well. So that's it from my side, and we will be very happy to take questions from participants.
Thank you, Yogesh ji. Now you have explained the entire process very lucidly, and we hope that we'll be able to take advantage of this. I have a few. We have a few queries. One is that in POA we had a functionality of tendering shares in buyback and OFS. Now in this DDPI mechanism, that does not seem to be there. Is there a possibility that you could represent to SEBI to include that functionality, or we have to continue with the POA?
So there, in the SEBI circular, some of the places it has been mentioned that the POA is DDPI is a replacement for POA. So we are saying that yes, certain type of a transaction which are already covered in the SEBI circular, and there are some transactions which are not covered in the SEBI circular. For example, which you mentioned about tender offer. Today, on the basis of power of attorney, tender offer related transactions are executed in the depository system. So, and in a lieu of a SEBI circular related to tender offer enhancement, we are going to get the obligation from the clearing corporation related to tender offer. So certainly we will be having the obligation received from clearing corporation, and we will be doing the matching part, which is mentioned in the DDPI. So as you rightly said, we will be taking up this matter with the regulator very soon, and we will come on this, because we are already think of on this point basically, and we are in a touch with the SEBI official. Once we get the certain clarification from SEBI, we'll be very happy to provide that clarification.
So the problem is so far as the current process is concerned, we have to block the shares first and then tender in the exchange platform, whereas the DDPI mechanism works in a reverse fashion, that we will have to tender the thing first, and then an obligation gets generated, and then the DDPI will work. So the entire process needs to be, I think, relooked.
No, sir, I'm not very clear on this part because today also, whenever the tender offer is executed in the energy depository system, once first the lien is created, then only we, provide the details of the EPI to the clearing corporation. And once the, CC providers, today CCs are not providing the obligation detail to us, but they will be very soon, starting with the providing the obligation details. And once the obligation matching is done, only the accepted bid details will be, the number of securities will be transferred to the clearing corporation, and the remaining securities will be given back to the client. So that same, process will continue in case of a DDPI, upon, receipt of a necessary approval from the regulator to execute the tender of a related transaction based on the DDPI.
Yeah, sir. Today, what happens is that suppose the buyback is open for say 10 days. So you have to block the shares first and create a lien, and then we tender it on the exchange platform. And after 10 days, whatever is accepted, that gets debited and it's pulled out. So in DDPI, the obligation will necessarily be created only after the buyback date has elapsed. So the obligation will get created only after 10 days. So maybe they will also have to change their systems. Acha, so the next one is, can a POA be taken post 1st July, or is it mandatory to go in for DDPI?
Sir, SEBI has clearly mentioned that, in one of the points, SEBI has said that PO shall not no longer be executed for the conditions specified in paragraph 1.2.1 and 1.2.2. So SEBI has clearly categorized it as no POA for the new accounts, after the given date shall be taken for the purpose of these two clauses. One is for the, transaction execution, and one is for the margin pledge and repledge.
So the problem is that till that buyback thing, gets covered, till then we'll have to go in for a POA covering the third and fourth clause. That is the problem. Even if we delete the, so that effectively means that we have to take two documents. One is DDPI and the other one is POA for the new clients till this process is revised, as you said.
I got your point, sir. So that's
what we are expecting, that as Yogesh has rightly mentioned, that from 1st July onwards, the DDPI is supposed to be on optional basis to be implemented. So we will definitely had a discussion with SEBI, and now we will also take it officially with them, whereby we will try to take a clarity on this tender offer concept, that how it can be done. And as Yogesh has briefed, we are currently not getting the obligation detail. So one of the parameter to minimize the risk towards the risk mitigation is that every debit can be possible only after the obligation is received. Blocking if the security is the protection to the broker and for the early paying. And the debit from the block account is the protection to the investor, that the debits are happening because there is obligation. So unless both are matched, the DDPI, SEBI is not looking for that. Currently, the tender offer details of successful bids we are not getting. SEBI has already issued the circular for that. So it is a matter of time when we will start getting the obligation. Then the complete cycle will be completed, and so we will be in the position to do that. So that's the reason we are expecting some revert to happen prior to 1st July, which is the date of implementation of DDPA.
That's it. So next one is the repeated questions is, does it require stamping? Because SEBI's language in the circular is slightly vague. No, it's not really an agreement. It's just an authorization. And if you remember, earlier we used to have client member agreements, DP agreements, which was substituted by this rights and obligation thing, so that there was no stamping required. And even the stockbroker agreement has been done away with since last 10 years, and it has been replaced with rights and obligations. Do we still have to go through this stamping business? Because that's a pain point. How do you get it stamped unless and until you are having a document?
So as we mentioned at the beginning, which Yogesh also highlighted, See, some of the points which DDPI has brought, that it has replaced the POA, and so POA cannot be digitally signed, whereas a DDPI can be signed. So one way, the online journey, it has become more simplifier by the way of introduction of DDPI. Second thing is that DDPI is more legally protected than the EDIS in terms of e-sign done by the investor, which he cannot disown in future. So that way also it is a better document which can be done. POA, there was no blocking of security was happening, no obligation was happening. It was on an optional basis, block mechanism. Whereas here that all the things are taken care. So when SEBI has done a lot of good things, one of the things which has unfortunately has happened, that the stamped word has again remained as a part of this circular. And when the word stamp is there, definitely the meaning is that the stamp duty is the applicable. So as of now, looking at the currently the wording of the circular, it appears that the stamping is required, and so as the stamp duty.
But how do we put the stamp? So suppose the client has digitally signed it. How do we attach the stamp to that?
Okay.
The entire?
So currently, as you are aware, there is a concept like a digital LAS, which we have launched. So as a part of a digital LAS journey, we have observed that there are some service provider and who are doing that activity. So what we heard from the market intermediaries is that there is an agency in the name of National E-Governance Infrastructure, National Infrastructure E-Governance, or National Service E-Governance Limited, which is providing the linkages with online stamping agencies, and thereby it is able to do the document to be stamped in a digital way. And some money is required to be kept with the respective authority, and subsequently it can be done. So there is a ways and means. So we will also explore that to get more detail that how it can be done and what are the prevalent practices followed in the market. Then accordingly we can give some inputs to the NME also on that.
Yeah, and or we could deposit the stamp duty as the way we are depositing this online off market sales
Something
thing to
like that
NSDL.
can be
Yeah.
done, but because in case of offline, in case of off-market transfer, the responsibility was casted on the depository as a NSDL. That type of responsibility SEBI has not casted. And so that's the reason, looking at the way it has been done and the way it is a replacement of POA. So the existing mechanism, which was very much used for the POA-based stamp duty payment, can be further extended. So how the only the digital mode can be incorporated, that is what is required to be looked into. So that definitely we will explore. If we can get more information, we will revert back.
Thank you, sir. And then the question is, DDPI is voluntary, yes. Any specific format in which DDPI to be taken from the client? I think as long as those two clauses are there, it's fine.
Yeah, SEBI has mentioned in the annexure A of that circular, wherein they have given the two purposes of the DDPI. So it can be, considered as the format, which can be consisting of those two clauses.
Now, question has come in: if the client does not agree to sign any one of the clauses of DDPI, then what to do?
See, the point which SEBI has highlighted, that it should have these two clauses, but that doesn't mean every time you have to have it. So it is an option of the investor that either they can go with one clause, either of them, or both. That is his prerogative. So definitely, if customer is having some reluctance or resistance for any of them, perhaps they may say we will not like to give a margin pledge. We will only go for the debit instruction. Then that type of the option can be selected, and client can be allowed to go for a DDPI.
Okay, so actually we've covered all the questions that we've received. Now there are some questions appearing on the chat box. Let's see if we can take it. So, the first one is, sir, what is the difference between DDPI and POA? The requirement and process is same.
Yogesh?
Yeah, it is just a submission of the DDPI, how it is different. Basically, one format is prescribed by SEBI. That is the first thing. Then we already discussed in this slide. It can be digitally digitally signed by the client. It can physically signed by the client, and it can be submitted to the broker. Third difference is that the transaction executed based on the DDPI is blocked in the client account, whereas the transaction executed by POA are not mandatorily blocked in the client account, because today block mechanism is an optional mechanism. And for DDPI executed transaction, the client-wise net obligation will be received from the clearing corporation, and the matching is a mandatory with the DDPI executed transaction along with the CC obligation. And once the matching is done, then only the securities will be debited from the client account.
Yogesh, currently, suppose we execute a block transaction and there is somehow a mismatch between CC and DP, the stocks move into the broker's pool account.
Yes.
What will happen in the scenario when DDPI comes?
So it is just like block mechanism is being made mandatory. So in that case, what will happen? The transactions will be debited. The transaction will be rejected wherein there is a no matching is there. Today also it is happening like that. Once the matching is not done with the obligation, or the matching obligation is not found for a particular transaction, in that cases we are rejecting that transaction and we are giving the securities back in the client account. We are not giving those securities in the CM pool account. So that same thing will happen in the case of a DDPI, wherein the matching obligation is not found. In that case, the instruction will be rejected and the securities will be given back in the client account as a free balance.
Okay. So the experience is that suppose there's a mismatch in some PAN number or something, but the client code is matching, the instruction does not get rejected, but the stocks travel from the client account to the pool account.
Yeah, I got your point from where you are coming from. So it is basically related to the duplicate UCC. So
Absolutely.
in the block mechanism related circular wherein SEBI has issued, it is being explicitly mentioned that the unique UCC has to be available in the Demat account, so that the particular instruction will be considered for a block mechanism, wherein the blocking will be done, wherein the matching will be done with the obligation, and then only the securities will be debited from the client account. But in cases wherein the multiple UCCs are available with the same combination, in that cases today what we are doing, we are not considering those cases for a block mechanism. We are executing that transaction through a normal channel of a settlement, because being a block mechanism as an optional process. So instead of rejecting that particular order, for ease of a client, for ease of a broker, we are executing that transaction through a normal route of a settlement, wherein securities are debited from client account and the securities are getting credited in the CM pool account, from where the broker can take it forward as a normal settlement process by executing the delivery out order for meeting the paying obligation.
So the same thing will continue even in DDPI.
No, sir, because in this particular case, the DDPI, the matching and the blocking is a mandatory thing.
Okay.
But today, in today's scenario, the obligation matching is not, or the block mechanism is not a mandatory thing. But in the DDPI related thing, the matching is mandatory. The blocking is mandatory. So in that case, there is a wherever the duplicate issue is there. In that case, we need to think of whether to give them the approach of optional blocking, optional matching, or whether it has to be mandatorily match with the obligation being received. Because in the SEBI circular also, DDPI is an optional thing. It is not a mandatory. Same like the block mechanism.
Correct. So otherwise, if we make it too rigid, then maybe some of the transactions might go in for option than not.
Yes, sir.
So I think you need to be a little flexible, especially to begin with.
So that the same process which we are following today in case of a block mechanism.
Yeah.
Because block mechanism being an optional service. So that will be applicable for DDPI.
Yeah, even in our office, it hardly happens in one out of 500 cases. Nothing.
Yes. And today also we are taking up this matter with the exchanges to get rid of this multiple UCC issue.
That's
so hopefully we'll those cases will be very less in the near future.
Then for paying,
So the Yogesh has raised a very important point, and what he is saying it here is that currently we have developed the intelligence whereby customer may not be required to mention his UCC either in physical mode or in the digital mode. Today, if I am trading through 3 brokers, I may not remember what is my UCC with one of them. But my PAN is the same, my Demat account is the same. So why to give a trouble to the investor to keep in mind if I am trading through ABC, my UCC is XYZ, and if I am trading through KLM, my UCC is 123. So we have developed the unique UCC concept whereby we apply the intelligence and find out that the customer is trading through XYZ broker, and XYZ broker has given him a ABC as a unique code. So we pick up that code and do it. Now, initially we observe that at the time of margin place, there were a lot of duplicate codes which was existing in the system. We take up the matter with exchange and SEBI, and a lot of cleanup has already happened. And now exchanges has also developed some intelligence. That is what we have been told. And then from last 1 year onwards, the duplicate UCC has gone down to the drastically low level. So as and when from 1st July onward, the new accounts will be open with a DDPI. We don't expect there will be a duplicate UCC, and so the rejection, what Yogesh was saying, it is not a rejection, but from debiting from client account and going into the pool account, it will happen. And we have again take up the matter with SEBI, given some the details to them. We have approached both the exchanges and their respective clearing corporation, and we are looking for them to clean up the duplicate UCC issue in the span of next 1 month.
That's it. So the next question I've received is stamp duty on DDPI and POA. Kindly make POA and DDPI a common document. Why have 2 documents in the first place? I think POA is going to go.
Yeah, frankly speaking, it should not be a common document because the purpose of the DDPI is limited for the clauses mentioned in 1.2.1 and 1.2.2. So DDPI will work for this 2 type of a transaction effective from the 1st July 2022, whereas POA will not be serving these purposes. So I think the same format may not work for DDPI and POA.
Next one is only DDPI based transactions will be considered for EPI. No, EPI has nothing to do with DDPI. Anything that is done through a block mechanism will get considered through EPI, or shares are tendered through the.
So along with the block mechanism, the process which will be followed for the transaction executed on the basis of DDPI. So such kind of a transactions will be considered for a block mechanism, and those will be considered for early pain as well.
The next question is, what about existing clients? If they already submitted POA, then also require DDPI? No, I don't think the existing client POA will continue.
Yeah, the existing POA will continue till the client specifically revokes the same.
Okay. So for existing client, we don't need to do any DDPI documentation. Only for the new clients, we need DDPI. If client has already given EDIS, is DDPI also needed?
EDIS is also EDIS will also continue. That has been also mentioned in the SEBI circular. As a physical DIS, the electronic DIS will also consider based on the mandate given by the client to execute the transaction.
Okay. The next question is, does each DDPI instruction require to be e-signed? No, not. It's a one-time authorization, just like a POA and then the broker executes.
Exactly. So DDPI will be a document or the declaration kind of a thing, same as a POA agreement that has to be mentioned in the mapping has to be done in the client account. It is a one-time process, so it is not related to a transaction based DDPI signing and all. The one-time DDPI is required to be taken from the client, which has to be marked or the mapped in that particular BO account.
So the next question is, what about mutual fund redemption held in Demat mode? In that case, also we use POA as of now.
So as I mentioned, we are for this point also and for tender offer related transactions also, we are in a touch with the regulator. We are representing the matter to the SEBI. Once we receive any feedback from the SEBI, we will be happy to share that clarification with the brokers.
If segments may be covered under two segments may be covered.
Rajivji, one more
Yeah.
point. See,
Yeah,
as
Prashant.
far as this mutual fund redemption is concerned,
Yeah.
see, as you are aware that now MF pooling is going to stop from a particular date.
Yeah.
And as a part of that, which is not only the matter of time, the money will start coming to the client account directly. That is what the expectation is. So if that type of development is going to happen, then why there is need to have a need to use the MF redemption through the stock exchange platform? Then there could be the option whereby depository APIs can be used. And in the NSDL depository system, there is a redemption module available. So the customer can log into broker portal, and from there the API call can be made like a ADIs, and the redemption request can be submitted into the depository platform. And that way the redemption will go to central system and all the rule of the game will be going to follow. Previously, because the MF pooling in terms of securities and funds was allowed, the broker was encouraging that to route through stock exchange platform. But now because there is no such a thing going to be there subsequent to, I think, from 1st July onward, then the MF redemption API developed by the depository can be explored. And on our Speedy also it is there for the password based user. So the API for that also can be explored, either of them, and it can be implemented. But in addition to what Yogesh said, definitely we will explore that. But if it is not happening, then without DDPI also through the NSDL API, the MF redemption can be done.
So then they say, what about pledge securities which are for margin purposes? Will that be automatically unpledged for paying? No, I think that has to be unpledged separately. So the question is that suppose some securities are replaced with the stock exchange, and a DDPI based delivery instruction is fired. So there will be no clear balance. Will it get unpledged automatically, or unpledging process as of now has to be gone through, and then free balances have to be made available, and only then the transaction will
Sir, that process will remain same, wherein the pledge margin pledge release has to be executed. Till that time, the DDPI related instruction will be in a overdue status. Once the securities are received in a free balance in the client account, then the overdue will be triggered, and those securities will be considered for a settlement obligation.
So the next question is, by when NSDL will release the change in file formats?
So the file formats are already ready. As I already said, we are not emphasizing any big changes in the file format. We are just making changes in the static codes, which will be very easily replaceable in the file format. So that's the reason we are not making any change in the account opening file format. We are not making any changes in the transaction processing file formats and all. So we are thinking of making the changes in the static codes. We were waiting for this webinar to get some feedback from the all the participants, and most probably within day or two we'll be issuing a file formats.
But then would NSDL be sharing a template for the DDPI, like you make annexures and all? Would there be such a thing, or it's just a free thing?
Yeah, it is.
As long as those two clauses are covered.
It is a good suggestion. Definitely we will try to take this matter with our policy and compliance team. If there is something happening on paper, so we'll be definitely will be very happy to share with the participants.
Okay. Then do we have to include Demat account numbers, that is pool margin EPI account numbers in DDPI, or is it a general thing that is covered? Like in POA, you had to specifically mention the pool account numbers. Over here, is it required, or just a general DDPI?
Prashant sir, would you like to take this question?
Yes, it is required to be included, because as it is clearly mentioned that we have to match with the obligation. So that we will be able to do only when we know what is the account for which this mandate has been given. And in the obligation also, we will quote that details. So for us to do the matching, these details are very much required.
So then I would request you to give a format in which we know
Yes.
this DDPI can be
So it's a good
executed.
point. We have noted that. So we will revert on.
Right, sir. Then, sir, what article code to be mentioned in e-stamping? This is about that e-stamping thing, sir.
That is what it appears actually.
This is about this e-stamping only.
Yes,
There's
yes,
a lot
yes.
of confusion.
Yeah.
So I think you could be coming out with some explanation. Can client e-sign and CM sign in physical? It can be done either way. Either it can be e-signed or a physical document can be signed.
We will explore, but I think it is allowed, but still we will have more clarity from the legal team and revert back.
That's it. Then the current framework of non-POA client doing MTF will not be impacted with the new DDPI working.
Yes, true. There will not be any impact on the non-POA client doing MTF.
Okay. The pool account numbers should be written or not necessary that you will come out with.
Yeah, we have already discussed that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What about mutual fund redemption that has already been covered? Mutual fund, can we do e-sign, digital sign on the stamp paper? That you already going to cover everything what if client has. Okay. Now, what if client has multiple Demat accounts and has shares partly in both accounts?
What if a client has a multiple Demat accounts and has
Shares partly in both the accounts.
Okay. So currently the way POA is given, you are aware that on the heading of the POA document, the details of Demat account of the source account is mentioned.
Right.
So similar thing will continue to be the part of this document and it will behave exactly in the same manner. See,
so probably we have to take two DDPIs in both the accounts and the broker has to fire instructions from both the accounts and then it will get executed.
See, the way currently it was managed for the physical POA, it will exactly behave in the same manner.
Correct.
We are only enabling the hurdle which was there in the government notification, where it is mentioned that there are 5 documents which cannot be digitally signed. So the POA is replacing the same. And in addition, looking at a risk mitigation, there are some of the fine-tuning points has been incorporated. That is the only difference which DDPI is bringing on the table.
Then again, stamp duty, sir, what rate DDPI is required to be stamped? I think that will depend from state to state.
Yes, right.
In Bombay, it would be much higher. In Delhi, it should be much lower. Will there be any APIs provided for DDPI?
So DDPI, I already discussed, DDPI is a one-time activity wherein the DDPI will be mapped in the client account same as a power of attorney. So
there's no change in process.
No, there is no change in the process as such for transaction processing.
Yeah. So thankfully we come to the end of the questions, and they were quite a bit. I never anticipated these many questions for DDPI, and I'm really thankful to Yogesh ji and Prashant ji to be patient enough to answer all the questions very lucidly and patiently. And may I now request Mr. Kamlesh Bhai to offer a vote of thanks.
Right. Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you, Prashant ji and Yogesh ji. I mean, the entire session was handled in a professional way. The presentation was quite elaborate. And I thought, after this, there may not be questions. But I mean, a lot of things have been clarified. The questions were really good. And I think we will have to make submission on 3 points. One is the tender, the other one is mutual fund, and the last one is on stamp duty. So if we make a comprehensive letter, we'll get clarification on all the 3 points. Sir, here I have a small query, or I have not understood it. For early paying, if a client makes early paying, you said that matching document, obligation has to be matched. Now that obligation statement will come very late. So how the early paying will take effect?
Sir, I'll like to answer this question. So, for example, at 11:50 a.m. you are executing what transactions for early paying. So that time the securities will be blocked in the client account seamlessly, and within a few minutes that instruction details are being provided to the clearing corporation along with the UCC, TMID, and exchange details. So within a 5 or 10 minutes, that details are being made available to the clearing corporation so as to provide you the EPI details. Once the obligation is being received from the clearing corporation, say for example 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening, that time the matching is being done, and we just update the status as a match with the obligation. But the EPI details are already being shared with the clearing corporation when you execute the transaction in the financial depository system.
Yeah, so the way
So even before the transfer, the early payment benefit would be given to the client.
Yes.
So that will meet with the margin requirements.
Block in the client account.
Yeah.
Once the block is created, we are forwarding that details to the clearing corporation for providing the.
So that is as good as early payment made.
Yes, yes, yes.
कमलेश भाई जैसे अभी होता है वो ऐसे ही है. सपोज द क्लाइंट सेल्स 10,000 रिलायंस इन द मॉर्निंग, आपने ब्लॉक की इंस्ट्रक्शन दे दी, वो ईपीआई का बेनिफिट मिल जाता है, एंड सपोज ही बाइज 5,000 बैक, so only 5,000 gets blocked and 5,000 gets released.
Right.
Am I right, Yogesh ji?
Yeah, I got the answer. Thank you very much. Sir,
कमलेश भाई एक छोटा सा सवाल और आ गया प्लीज. In case of Demat account of joint holders, the DDPI has to be signed by both, or one can sign? The first one can sign.
So currently, when the POE is given by the client and if the account is jointly open, definitely so both of them are required to sign. Here also the same concept will be there. Right. Now the good part which is happening is that I am sure you must be aware that SEBI has allowed the either or survival consent in a Demat account. Right. And we are in the process of implementing. Yogesh, we have made the changes, or when it is going to happen?
So we are in the final stages of implementation. So
right. So if that type of change is implemented, whereby both the holders are giving the authority to either one of them or whoever is a survivor, then in that scenario, the DDPI can be signed by one of them. So as and when the necessary changes system will be implemented, as Yogesh has mentioned, that can be implemented. But till that time, both the entities are required to do the e-sign.
Thank you, sir. Kamesh bhai, please. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. To take away from this entire discussion, which is a good thing in a way. One is the relief by SEBI that existing POA will continue till it is revoked. So that brings a lot of relief for all the existing clients. Second best point out of the entire circular is the matching paying obligation by depository and automatic transfer. So this is a really again a very, very good step, a welcome step by us, and this will create additional security for the. Prasad sir, जरा mute पे रख लीजिए. So both the things are really good for the clients, and I'm thankful to both the panel members for excellent presentation, as well as handling all the queries in a very effective way. We addressed around 50 queries. So this is a great thing, on this subject. Answering all the queries of the client, of the brokers, will further help us to implement this circular in a best possible way. I would like to thank again all the panel members, the moderator, and the participants for this meeting. We thank you all. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.